Leicester, England, 1997. Two police officers step into Annabelle's casino. They've been called by casino staff to stop a man before he leaves the building. He's American, late 30s, quiet. He registered 2 days ago. No ID, no membership history. But now, he's trying to cash out £10,000 in winnings. Security can't explain it. He doesn't card count. He doesn't talk. He doesn't even watch the cards that closely. But somehow, he wins. Again, and again, and again. One dealer says he heard a faint buzzing sound under the table when the man placed his bets. Another claims they saw him tapping his feet in a strange rhythm. But there's no visible cheating, no signals, no accomplices. And yet, something feels wrong. The man doesn't resist when the police step in. He smiles politely, nods, says he'll cooperate. They separate him from his friend and bring both to their hotel room across the street. That's when things shift. Officers flip open drawers, tear through luggage, slice open a guitar case, and scatter piles of casino loyalty cards across the bed. London, Amsterdam, Brussels, Berlin. Then, they find a locked metal briefcase. Inside, custom switches, lithium batteries, replacement insoles, and detailed maps of 4 different casinos. But the biggest clue isn't in the suitcase. It's still on his feet. When the officer lifts the cuff of his jeans, he sees a battery pack strapped to the man's ankle. And inside the heel of his right shoe, a buzzing circuit board, hardwired with pressure switches near the toes. It's not a lucky streak. It's a winning machine. One built to beat Blackjack in silence. And what the police didn't know, what no one in that casino understood, was that this device had already made its creators over $1 million across 6 countries, and nobody had ever proven how. Until now. Los Angeles, 1975. Darryl Purpose is 16 years old. He's just finished reading Beat the Dealer by Edward Thorpe. The next morning, he packs a small bag, takes $50, and leaves home without telling anyone. He boards a Greyhound bus headed for Las Vegas. No plan, no connections, just one idea: count cards and beat Blackjack. At first, it's just practice. He spends hours at the table, betting low, watching every card. He runs decks over and over in his motel room until he can track them without even looking. Then he gets noticed. Ken Uston runs the most successful blackjack team in the country. His players make thousands every week using a method that casinos can't legally ban: card counting. But not just anyone can do it. They test for speed, accuracy, and nerves. Darryl passes the initiation test in under 10 seconds. No one on the team has ever done it faster. He's brought on immediately, not as a big player, but as a spotter. His job is to blend in, play minimum bets, and keep the running count. When the deck turns hot, he signals the big player. A scratch of the chin, a tug of the ear. Each gesture tells the player when to walk over and bet big. The big player acts like a reckless gambler. Loud, clumsy, unpredictable. But every bet is calculated, timed perfectly off Darryl's signal. It works. Within months, Darryl is making more than he ever thought possible. Hotel suites, free drinks, endless chips. Every night, a new casino. Every morning, new cash. But Vegas in the 70s is dangerous. The mob still runs parts of the Strip, and they don't like losing. Especially not to a 17-year-old with a quiet smile and perfect math. The team knows the risks, but Darryl keeps playing and keeps winning. By the summer of 1976, the team's operation is running with machine-like precision. Darryl is working 5 nights a week, sometimes more. They've locked in a pattern: get in, make money, rotate casinos, and get out before questions start. Casinos begin tightening surveillance, but nothing sticks. The team is careful. The big players are rotated. The spotters are quiet and the signals are subtle. No one is getting greedy. That's the rule. But the house is watching, and Darryl's face is starting to show up too often. At one casino, a pit boss pauses behind his table longer than usual. No expression, just watching. 2 nights later at a different casino, a floor manager seems to follow him for several minutes. Not close, just enough to be noticed. Then, the team gets news that changes everything. Ken Uston has been pulled into a back alley behind the Hilton. No warnings, no confrontation. Just 2 men who knew where to find him and when to strike. When Ken comes out of the hospital, his face is broken in 19 places. Darryl hears the details from someone inside the team, quietly, off the record. No police report, no complaint filed. Everyone understands why. There's a limit to how far you can push in Vegas. The team just found it. Darryl lays low for a few days, but the tension doesn't go away. He returns to the floor, this time at a smaller casino off the strip. The play is short. He's careful, keeps the bets small, no signals. But his chip stack still grows, slowly and steadily. Then it happens. A man in a black jacket taps his shoulder. He has no badge or introduction. "Grab your chips," he says. Darryl follows. No one speaks. He's walked through an employee hallway behind the pit, then down a service corridor. The air changes, colder, quieter. They pass several closed doors before stopping outside a plain, unmarked room. Inside, 2 men are seated at a small table. They don't get up. One of them has a pair of stainless steel pliers resting on the table in front of him. He's not holding them, just letting them sit there. A few minutes pass. No one explains anything. No one moves. Then, the door opens again. A man in a blazer steps in, older, calm. He walks over to the table, pulls a folded paper from his inside pocket, and lays it down in front of Darryl. It's a number, a precise count. "That's how much you're up right now," the man says. "We'll give you half. You leave. That's it." Darryl doesn't flinch. He doesn't ask questions. The man doesn't blink. "You're not invisible," he says. "We let you play. Don't mistake that for permission." He leaves the room without waiting for a response. The 2 men stay seated, still silent. A moment later, Darryl is led out the same way he came in, without threats and without violence. Just a message, clear and final. Outside, he gets into the first taxi he sees. He doesn't look back. He doesn't speak on the ride. Back at the hotel, he counts what's left. Half the win. No paperwork, no explanation. Just a new rule. If he wants to keep playing, he can't be seen. Not like this. Not as himself. From that moment forward, Darryl knows he needs a new way in. Not through the front door, not with chips and signals and visible stacks. Something quieter. Something they won't be able to trace. Back at home, Darryl meets with his friend Craig. Craig isn't a gambler. He's a shoemaker. Quiet, methodical, good with his hands. Darryl lays out the problem. He needs to count without being seen. No eye movement, no gestures, no patterns that can be tracked. They sit with a deck of cards, a notebook, and a stopwatch. Darryl runs through dozens of hands. Craig watches how he taps, how he calculates. They test different movements. Hand signals are too risky. Knee tapping is inconsistent. Then the idea forms. What if the signals don't come from Darryl at all? What if they come from the shoes? They sketch a basic design. A circuit board small enough to fit in a heel, 2 toe-activated switches under the insole, and a tiny buzzer placed inside the arch. The system is powered by a lithium battery strapped to the ankle with medical tape, hidden under pants and socks. Tap the front toe, add to the count. Tap the back, subtract. When the count hits a threshold, a buzzer activates. A short buzz means the deck is hot. A long one means cool off. No words, no looks, just vibrations. Over the next few weeks, Craig builds the first prototype. It's crude, wires exposed, parts scavenged from radio parts and an old kitchen timer. But it works. They test in Craig's workshop. Darryl wears the shoe while Craig deals the cards. The buzzer vibrates exactly when it should. They improve the design, smaller boards, thinner wires, cleaner switches. By the end of the month, the entire system fits into a dress shoe without raising suspicion. The battery lasts 6 hours. The signal is silent. The wearer's movements are minimal. It's ready. But Vegas is too risky. The team is still known. Casinos are on edge. Security is more aggressive than ever. They need a softer target. Somewhere with casinos, but without heat. After some research, they settle on England. Casinos there are smaller, surveillance is lighter, most players are amateurs, and most importantly, card counting hasn't become a known threat yet. They pack light, 2 pairs of shoes, spare circuit boards, extra batteries, a cover story. They land in London under tourist visas and take the train to Leicester. Their plan is simple. Test the system live, take low risks at first, and cash out quickly. But they hit a problem right away. UK casinos don't allow walk-ins. You have to register for a membership, and it takes 48 hours to process. They use the delay wisely. They scout every local casino, take notes on table layouts, camera placement, exit routes. Back at the hotel, they rehearse chip handling, pacing, and hand movement. They calibrate the buzzers to run quiet, even in crowded rooms. By the time the 48 hours are up, the system is locked in. They choose their first test site, a small casino called Annabelle's. The next day, Darryl steps inside, wearing a tailored black suit, low-profile shoes, and a battery taped to his leg. No one looks twice. He sits, buys in, starts low. The dealer begins to deal. Darryl taps his toe, then again. Then once more. The shoe buzzes, short and clear. He raises his bet. 5 hands later, the shoe buzzes again, this time longer. He drops back to minimum. The system works. No one notices a thing. Within an hour, Darryl is up over 10,000 pounds. The dealer changes his shuffle. The pit boss glances his way. Time to leave. At the cage, the cashier apologizes. They don't keep that much cash on hand. She offers a check or asks him to return the next morning to collect. He agrees, keeps his voice steady, and walks out. But the real test comes the next morning, because that's when the police show up. It's the next morning. Darryl and Craig return to Annabelle's casino. They're not dressed any differently. The shoes are the same, the battery is fresh. They expect to walk in, collect the 10,000 pounds, and play a few more hands. But when they enter, the atmosphere has changed. No greetings, no smiles. Instead, 2 uniformed officers step forward. One gestures for Craig to follow. The other turns to Darryl. "Step this way." They don't resist. They've prepared for something like this. They're separated immediately, no chance to speak, no time to adjust their stories. In a back room, Darryl sits across from a detective without any threats or raised voice, just calm questioning. "What is your name? Where are you staying? What do you do for work?" Darryl sticks to the script. Real estate, visiting friends, new to Blackjack. But the detective keeps circling the same point. "You're a professional gambler, aren't you?" Darryl says no. "You're using something, aren't you?" Darryl doesn't answer. After nearly an hour, nothing changes. The detective is out of questions, and Darryl's story doesn't move. Meanwhile, another team is at their hotel. Inside the room, officers begin searching everything. Drawers pulled open, bags dumped, the mattress flipped, rubbish emptied onto the floor. They find a guitar case. Open it. Nothing inside. Then they see the briefcase. Inside are wires, switches, circuit boards, a stack of lithium batteries, and membership cards to casinos in London, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. An officer picks up a switch. stares at it, and sets it back down. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't say a word. He closes the case and moves on. Back at the station, it becomes clear. The officers have no idea what they're looking at. No law was broken. No device was caught in use. There's no proof, just suspicion. After a short discussion, they're released. They are not accused of anything, just a warning to leave quietly. They walk back to the casino that afternoon, collect the 10,000 pounds. No one stops them. The shoes worked, the plan held, and the system passed its first real test. But Darryl knows they got lucky. The officers hadn't recognized the hardware. The casino hadn't recorded anything suspicious. That won't always be the case. Next time, they'll be ready. And next time, so will he. Back in the US, Darryl sits down with Craig in the same workshop where the shoes were built. They go over everything step by step. The casino surveillance, the cashier delay, the police questions, the hotel search. They know they got out clean, but they also know why. The British police didn't understand the device. No one did. They weren't looking for circuit boards hidden in footwear. They didn't know what toe switches looked like. They didn't know what a silent signal felt like. And without that, they had nothing. But Darryl knows that won't last forever. So they upgrade the design. The buzzer gets smaller. The circuit boards are rebuilt. Craig reroutes the internal wires to reduce heat. A switch under each toe is replaced with thinner pressure sensors, stitched invisibly beneath the insole. The battery is swapped out for a lighter lithium cell with more capacity, wrapped in elastic and sewn into a band that wraps around the ankle like a compression brace. It can now run for 8 hours straight. Once the new setup is finished, Darryl begins planning the next run, but not in Vegas and not in England. This time, it's the continent. He starts in Amsterdam, then Brussels, then Hamburg. Everywhere he goes, he applies for membership cards under a different alias. All legitimate, all documented. New haircut, new suit, slight changes in posture. Even the shoes are rotated to different colorways. Same structure, different design. He takes smaller wins, faster exits. No long sessions, no repeated visits. Never hits the same casino twice. And it works. In under 6 months, Darryl plays in over a dozen casinos across Europe and walks away clean from every single one. But slowly, things begin to tighten. At one casino in Frankfurt, security starts asking questions about his chip cash-out. Not enough to press charges, just enough to make him leave early. In Geneva, a floor manager spends too long behind his table. No eye contact, no expression, just watching. Darryl cashes out and leaves. By now, the tools are better, but the industry is smarter too. Casinos begin coordinating information across borders. Staff are trained to look for unusual betting rhythms. Some bring in off-duty law enforcement to handle special guests. New rules require scanning IDs before players can cash out. Darryl starts to notice his name is flagged more often, even the aliases. Eventually, a list goes around. It includes faces, photos, descriptions, and Darryl is on it, more than once. He starts taking fewer trips, then shorter ones, until he stops altogether. By the early 1980s, he's out. He doesn't get caught. He doesn't get exposed. He just leaves, quietly, without ceremony. In the years that follow, Darryl is unofficially banned from casinos across 6 continents. Some don't allow him past the entrance. Others let him sit down, then remove him within minutes. There's never an incident. No charges, no confrontations. Just silent acknowledgments that he's not welcome. But despite the blacklists, Darryl keeps his distance. He doesn't fight the bans. He doesn't return to the floor. His work is already done. In 2010, Darryl Purpose is inducted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame, not just for the money he made, but for how he made it, for the innovation, the precision, the control. Most players tried to beat the house by counting in their heads. Darryl did it with a circuit board in his shoe. By the time he's inducted, Darryl isn't gambling anymore. He's on stage, not at the table. He's performing across the country. Folk music, solo guitar, small crowds, real stories. His songs are quiet, measured, honest, just like the way he played.
Killington, Vermont, New Year's Eve, passing on the left, passing on the right. I left my helmet back at the bar. There was ice on the road, there was ice on my bike, and the cops pulled me over to the top of the hill. I walked the line, I knew the drill. That's when he gave me the lecture, the whole chapter and verse. He said, it's a very dangerous game you're playing. I said, I know one was.
But in every modern casino, under every table, behind every camera, inside every software update, there's a system that exists because of players like him. Because someone somewhere realized that if you can hide a computer in your shoe, you can hide anything.